Good evening. For those of you who have watched Hani's latest videos, this is an attempt to keep him company, so to speak. So it's a Lebanese white wine. It's a Musar Jeune. It's hard to see on the label, 2016. It is a wine, unlike their the flagship white wine. It's a wine it's made to drink young. It's unoaked. It's aged for about 6 months, fermented and aged in concrete and then bottled and then released in the market. So totally different from their white and their red chateaus, which are really, you sort of have to take them on their own terms. You have to really get into it and follow them where they lead you, as opposed to have your own expectations and then have the wine conform to that. I don't know. I hope you know what I mean. Anyway, this is again a young made to be drunk young. It's an interesting blend. Again, like the wine Hani had, it's the Domaine de Tourelle. It's 40% Viognier and then 30 of Vermentino and Chardonnay. It's the vines are in the Bekaa Valley, about 1,000 meter, as we discussed in Hani's video, altitude. So very specific to what goes on in Lebanon, where a lot of wine is grown in that valley between the two mountain chains. Anyway, the Vermentino is very typical in that, sort of in Greece, Corsica, Sardinia, Italy. So it's endemic to the Eastern Mediterranean. And then the Viognier, of course, in Rhone, and Chardonnay doesn't need introduction. So this is a wine we first opened for some of our cooking. And again, it's an interesting comment because I want to make sure I get this across. This is great wine for if you need wine in your cooking. This went into a risotto, but if you're doing some cheese fondue or risotto or something, I'm a fan of using quality wines for the food, because a lot of people think, oh, it's just for cooking. Let's use something that's not very good. It's really going to ruin your dish. So make sure you use pretty good quality wine, not $100 bottle, but a quality wine that you wouldn't mind drinking as well. And this is interesting because it has flavors that it can contribute to your dish. Anyway, let's look at what we have here. It's very, very light, a little bit darker than the Domaine de Tourelle, but maybe there's a little bit more Chardonnay in it, but it's certainly very light, very young looking. It's not very alcoholic. On the nose, you definitely interesting fruits like lychee, maybe a little bit of lychee, pineapple. So it's really those kinds of exotic fruits on the nose. And it really comes through, pretty strongly. It's an interesting mix. It's got a nice finish. The finish is there. It doesn't really go away in any way, shape, or form. In the palate, it's again that mix of exotic fruits, but there's no sweetness. So it's kind of a dry and fruity wine, if that makes sense. It is fun to have, on its own, or with the right kind of appetizer. It's got this sort of range that could go with a different variety of food, whether it's vegetables or grilled vegetables or maybe shellfish even, because it's got that sort of layer. It reminds me a little bit maybe of a kind of a decent Gewürztraminer, sort of that those aromas and those fruit, but also dry. A dry Gewürz. Again, it's an interesting blend, and I think for the price, it's not an expensive bottle of wine. It's different enough that it's certainly worth a try, and it won't be regretted. And it's not unlike the chateaus, as we discussed. You just don't have to wait. Like right now, you'd be drinking a Chateau Musar White 2008 maybe, and you'd still feeling that you could wait 10 years. This is just ready to go. Nice and fresh and enjoyable as it is. Cheers, and I'll try to also keep Hani company with some of his other videos in the next day or two. See you soon.